episode of The Positive Side of the Bad Stuff. I'm Leslie Pogue, your host, and Happy Chick, Chief Happy Officer, all of that. And this week we are talking about secrets to managing depression without medication. So that is very dear to my heart because when I first got diagnosed with anxiety, panic disorder with depression, they prescribed a lot of medication. Well, not a lot, but I got prescribed Prozac right away. And that was the drug of choice back then in my 20s. So, and that was like what, the early 90s? Yeah, early 90s. So what happened was I continued to do what they asked me to do, but what was happening is they kept increasing my dosage. And that didn't make sense to me. So one day I went in for my usual visit and they prescribed lithium. I said no, because again, you guys have heard me say this before. They said lithium, all I heard was lobotomy, because in my brain, that's what lithium does. It messes with your brain. And so, I mean, obviously I know better now, but still, it's all chemical. It drives you, it's not good. So I didn't think it was okay. So what I did was I said, not only am I not going to do the lithium, but I'm also going to get off of the Prozac. And they're like, oh no, you can't do that, you can't do it. But yes, you can. And I did. And I did some research. I looked up and tried to understand what's going on in my body, because it's so funny. No one took the time to explain to me what was physiological, what was in my biology, what was happening in my brain, in my body, with all of the chemistry that was going on in my body. No one took the time to explain to me what it meant to have anxiety, panic disorder with depression. I'm like, okay, so I did research on my own, and back then we didn't have Google, so I had to go to the library and look it up. So I did a little bit of research, a lot of reading and understanding that it's a chemical imbalance. It can be, in a lot of cases, hereditary, and I believe that mine is, although no one else in my family has been diagnosed, but you know, we learn and understand behaviors. I'll just leave it at that. You all know that too. So I did some research and I understood what was happening with my body. So I understood how food, stress, life experiences, upbringing, all of these things play into my system, and I decided that I don't want to do medication. Now, here's the caveat, and here's what I want to stress to you guys. One, I'm not a therapist. I am not a doctor. I do have a degree in organizational psychology, but I am not a therapist. I have no background in prescribing medication or any of that. I have left that to the professionals. All I'm speaking to you about is my own personal experience, my own personal journey, and my own personal decisions that have gotten me to a place where I can live every day without medication. Every single person is different, and I firmly believe that in the beginning, especially when things are really, really dark, there's nothing wrong with medication. Medication is good. Well, certain ones, and I won't go into the different ones, but medication is good. However, you should always have an exit plan. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as I go through today's episode and having that conversation with your doctor. So what I did, like I said, is I did research and I changed the different food. Like I ate less, I had less caffeine. Back then I smoked, so I wasn't ready to give up cigarettes yet, but I smoked a little bit less because nicotine, we think that nicotine is a downer, but it's actually an upper. Yeah, and so when people who suffer from depression, you've probably heard me say this before, people who suffer from depression, when you come up, that's great, but then your down is probably down lower than the average person, especially if you're in the middle of a high stress time in your life, if things are going on and you're not paying attention to what's going on in your body, your low could actually sink you into a really dark low. And you know, because that's not to say you can't have highs and lows with depression and it not be a bad thing, because you can. I have them all the time. Depression is like alcoholism. It never goes away, but you learn to manage it. So you can have highs and lows and be happy and sad and all these things and not end up in that dark hole, but you do have to manage it. Medication is one way. I'm going to talk about a few other ways that you can manage it as we go through today. So that's my story, basically, and the Reader's Digest version of my story, and just a small piece of it as it relates to the medication. Now, through the years, I have seen several therapists. It's not till really the last, I'd say, last 10 years that I've really been without a therapist, without medication, without the need of any of that. And I've been living through my own process, the habit of happy process, although it wasn't called that in the beginning. I've been using that process to stay off of medication and to manage my depression and my anxiety and my panic attacks and all of that. So prior to that, though, it's been up and down. I've seen therapists, I've stopped seeing therapists. I've been on medication, I've gotten off of medication. But throughout my journey, I've made sure that any therapist I talk to, any doctor I talk to, any situation I found myself in, I let them know that if they were prescribing medication, you want to start with the lowest dosage first. And I insisted on that. And this is verbiage you can have with your doctor. They may want to put you on a certain dosage of a certain type of medication. And the beauty is now you have Google at your at your disposal. You may not have the wherewithal in that moment to take a pause, take a beat, and check Google when they tell you the type of medication they want to prescribe for you. But I highly recommend bring someone with you or find that thing in you to look up what they're putting you on. Find out what it does, what the side effects are, and what you can expect from it. The other thing the other conversation you want to have with your doctor and or your therapist is you want to let them know that you want to be on the lowest dosage first, and see how things go. Don't start in the middle and go high or low. Start with the lowest dosage. And to be fair, let me put it this way. A good doctor or therapist will usually start you on the lowest dosage because they want to just see how it works with your body and then increase your dosage as you go along. That's why when my doctors initially continued to prescribe Prozac, I didn't think it was a bad thing at first because it makes sense that you're going to start low and then build on that. What happened is it kept getting more and more, but then you wanted to switch it up to something stronger, and that's when I had a problem. So pay attention to those kinds of things too. You want to ask the question why. Like, what is your doctor seeing? What is not changing? What are the things that are happening that are causing their diagnosis, basically? So you want to have those conversations with your doctor. Start with the lowest dosage. Ask them how long they think you should be on that medication. I highly recommend that you start off by, again, verbally asking them to please keep it to 3 to 6 months. That in and of itself is quite some time, especially if you're taking medication and it's coupled with therapy, which ideally it should be. You should not be on medication alone. Ideally, your medication should be coupled with therapy. If it is not, and they don't recommend it, I recommend that you take the initiative and find a therapist. If you don't have a therapist or you don't have health insurance, there are lots of places that work on a sliding scale. So again, you can Google therapists that work on a sliding scale. They'll usually meet with you. Some of them meet with you at a nominal fee, like, I don't know, $10, $15 just to meet. Some are as high as $25. But just to meet, and then they'll tell you what their rate is, and you can decide how you can and if you can support that. So find out what your options are, but there are options out there for you if you do not have medical insurance. And if you do have medical insurance, use it. Use it, use it, use it. People who have a plan at work where it's coupled with their benefits, where you get to the name of it is escaping me in this moment, but it is your your EPP plan, or your employee. It's an employee service that a lot of larger companies give you, and within that service you have the option to see a therapist. It's completely private. Again, it's a matter of trust, because I hear y'all out there, I feel the same way. It's like, they're gonna know that I'm seeing a therapist. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it's up to you to make that decision. At any rate, this is a service that is out there for you to use. I highly recommend you use it, especially if you're stressed out at work. So go see, and they usually bake in about 3 visits for free. So you can go just dip your toe, like especially if you're not comfortable with seeing therapists, dip your toe in the water and go see that therapist and talk about some of the things that are going on with you. And they do not have to be work related. So just use those services that are out there available to you. The other thing I want to talk about is some homeopathic remedies or solutions. When long time ago I heard the St. John's wort was a great substitute for antidepressants if you didn't want to, or you didn't have medication, you didn't have medical insurance and you wanted to get some kind of help for the changes and the shifts in your body. St. John's wort was recommended to me. And I took St. John's wort years ago and it seemed to work. And then it stopped working. I will say this about St. John's wort. It can level you off, but if you read some of the side effects of St. John's wort, one of the side effects is possible anxiety. So so while the dosage calls for, I think, 3 pills a day, what I have done myself is when I need something to just level me off, I'll have like 1 pill a day for about 3 to 5 days. That's it. But in addition to that, I will minimize the level of sugar and caffeine that goes into my body. And with that, coupled with a little bit of B12, that all combined usually does level off my levels. Because what's happening when I talk about levels, I'm talking about your norepinephrine and your serotonin levels. These are the 2 levels that get kind of janky in our bodies when we are experiencing anxiety and panic and depression primarily. So your norepinephrine and serotonin levels get kind of janky, and those are the levels you want to pay attention to. There might be, actually, I shouldn't say there is no test. There might be a test out there, but basically you can tell if you're paying attention. Pay attention to your body. Pay attention to your highs and your lows. And like my book, 28 Days to Happy, helps you to kind of walk through pinpointing those triggers that you might have, and all the stuff that you're holding on to, your truths and the things you need to forgive yourself for. So that's another process that you can go through. And if you are seeing a therapist, please talk to your therapist about that. St. John's wort, though, I still recommend it. I would still say use it, but I would say use it knowledgeably, right? Because what I didn't know when I first started using it is that one of the side effects is added anxiety, and that's not good. So you want to keep it just at a minimum. The last thing I want to suggest, as far as living a life with depression but without medication, is to find those things that give you joy. Try not to make it always be food. I'm saying, I know, I hear you, but even for me, I'm talking to myself just like I'm talking to you, right? My favorite is the French fries, right? Some of you are like, oh yeah, man, fries, oh my God. Yes, fries and shakes and the frozen yogurt, and oh yeah, so good. No, don't go to that all the time. One of my favorite things to do, and it's because of my mentor Stanley. She is amazing, and she got me to walk in the grass barefoot. That's one of the best things you can do. Connect with nature. Go hug a tree. And I say that, people are like, hug a tree? People say that in joking, but I say it with all seriousness. Go and just be next to a tree, lean on a tree, hug it, sit underneath a tree and read. Take your shoes off and walk around in sand, walk around in grass, sit outside on the patio. I did that this past week. I sat out on my patio and did my workout there, and it was so great and relaxing. It just felt nice to not be cooped up in a box, inside while you're working. So go find those things that give you joy. If you are a TV person, which I am for sure, I go to TV a lot of the time for my joy and for my relaxation. Try to lean on the side of comedy, not so much drama or horror, especially when you find yourself in a heightened state of stress or emotion. But I will tell you this, when you are angry, it is great to have that one movie that is your go-to angry movie. I'll tell you mine, and I'm happy to say I haven't had to watch it in a while, but mine was Set It Off for a long time. It was like, we gonna set it off. I mean, I was just mad, man, and I just wanted to get out there and just go rob a bank, go blow some stuff up, man. I just wanted to call it, and it was wonderful. And it would just kind of get all that out, and I just felt better. And then I could watch some mushy love stuff to kind of level me off. But if you have that go-to shoot 'em up, tear it down, kick some ass kind of a movie, then when you're angry, I say go for it. Get it out until you can get it out. Again, a lot of the systems that I have on my website at www.thehabitofhappy.com can give you some tools and solutions to working through some of the anger, some of the depression, some of the anxiety and the fear that you might be experiencing in your life as it relates to your professional and your personal life. Well, those are the main pieces that I wanted to share with you today as it relates to managing depression without medication. Make sure that you are having a real conversation with your doctor. Don't just let them tell you what they're going to do to you and with you. Tell them what you would like to see happen, the results you'd like to see, and in the time frame you'd like to see it. Don't be afraid to have that conversation, and if you don't feel strong enough, then take an advocate with you. Make sure that they can speak for you. Even if you have to write it down and read from a list, it's okay. Trying St. John's wort to level that off. You can get that at any drugstore, and that helps you just kind of level off. Again, because of what its side effects are, I recommend kind of lowering the dose that it recommends, but also only taking it for a short amount of time, just until you feel yourself leveling off. And then you also want to couple that with, oh, I forgot to mention the most important one, a little bit of light exercise, some B12, and lessening the caffeine and sugar intake, especially because it does impact those levels. And lastly, to do those things that give you joy. It makes such a big difference. And when you're in that dark place, it's hard to find even one thing to give you joy. I remember one of the blogs I wrote talks about washing my car, and I'm serious about it. It's one of those things that if you can do a task that you can do from beginning to end, it's amazing how effective that simple task can give you a sense of completion. It could be just making your bed, doing the dishes, cleaning the bathroom, washing your car, but something that you have to start and finish in a very short amount of time. If you just do a few of those, that has also a way of pulling you a little bit out of that dark place, because you're starting to feel capable, and that's all you need to really kind of propel you to be able to start taking some action toward your healing. So go ahead and do those small things. All right, well, that is our episode this week. This week I want to talk to you, I have some great things coming up in this month, actually May. I have a webinar coming out May 16th, and it is along the lines of this. It's how depression and anxiety will impact you over the next 2 years. As we go closer and closer to the year 2020, things are changing quite a bit, and with technology, anxiety is at an all-time high, and so is depression and mental illness. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that and give you some solutions to that from a real person place. Again, this is not from a therapy place. This is not from a psychiatrist place. This is what I did, because I understand where you are, and I understand what it's like to feel like no one gets it. And I have an event in North Hollywood at the Secret Rose Theater on June 5th. And that information is also on my website. You can sign up for that. It's fantastic. And that is going to be Discover the Real Habit of Happy. So discover your real habit of happy. It's a seminar that's going to happen at the Secret Rose on June 5th. So please sign up for that. I want to tell you also about a couple of shows that's coming up. So next week is Mother's Day. Yes. So of course next week's episode will be all about Mother's Day, and I'll talk to you a little bit about the mother-daughter relationships and how to manage that with depression and also just with stresses and the different relationships that we have with our mothers. I love the stories I have with my friends and the people that I know and engage with. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So tune in next week for the Mother's Day episode. And then after that, the week after that, which I believe is May 18th, I will have, I'll be airing the interview I did with Marquesa Petway. She is the head of the Black NSA, which is the National Speakers Association. And I find out how this successful woman handles her happy. How does she stay in her happy? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I'd like you to tune into that. All right, everybody, it's been a great show. I hope you got something that can move you forward. Always tune in to, check out my website at www.thehabitofhappy.com. If you have not subscribed to this channel, The Positive Side of the Bad Stuff, then please do so you can always be aware of what's going on with this show. I also have an amazing thing coming up. And I want you to block out your Tuesday nights in June. I'm just going to tell you now, because LP at the Savoy is coming. And it's something that is so much fun, so amazing. You're going to have singing and comedians and live entertainment, and it's going to be an amazing treat for you. So you can also find out information about that on the website as well. Have an amazing, fantastic, awesome week. Fantaberific, as I like to say. And as always, until next time, go, be, do.